This podcast is part of E2C Network, where we share the whole Auburn experience.
War Eagle Auburn fans, welcome to No Huddle, your source for Auburn football news and discussion, part of the E2C Network. I'm AJ Richardson, and I'm also here with my again therapist. Thank you, Jared, for the other episode. I think that helped me think and talk through things. Feeling a little bit better.
No problem.
Feeling a little better.
I do what I can.
That's right. I'll make sure to Venmo you later.
Yeah.
But let's turn our focus a little bit to the New Mexico Lobos. And I'm still, I was feeling good about this game preseason. I'm still feeling pretty good about this game despite the struggles that we had with Cal. And this game is going to be an evening game, which I think in Jordan-Hare always is fun. I mean, you just went to one a couple weeks ago for the very first game, and you really enjoyed that. I mean, I feel like we can create a fun game environment even if it's not the biggest opponent. So hopefully Auburn feeds off that again and does something special and gets our fan base from being in the muck and the grossness that it was of what it was against Cal, and start turning this thing around, because in my mind, Auburn's got, we have some uphill sledding to do, and we got to start figuring things out sooner rather than later. So I was looking at, and this is a little preview of New Mexico. This is not New Mexico State. Don't be freaking out, Auburn fans. Thank goodness it's not New Mexico State. But New Mexico, they are 0-2 right now. And while that may be encouraging to you, know that they have also, in both of their games, put up 31 points and 39 points. And the 39 points was against number 21, Arizona. So it's just got me thinking, New Mexico, they at least so far have figured out something on offense and putting up some good points on the scoreboard. I know I do have faith in Auburn's defense, but to me that says New Mexico is going to score points, and Auburn's got to come out swinging too. Like, we can't just come out there lame duck pass it. We have to have a really good game plan even against New Mexico, and hopefully jump up early on them. So, Jared, any other kind of thoughts about this game? From coming off a loss, like, how do we respond in a game like this, and maybe start to build the players' confidence back up?
Oh man, I don't know. I think you go back to running an actual offense. I think we got a little. I don't mean that as
that's a little mean.
I don't mean that as rude as it sounds, but I think we got a little NCAA 2025 and start like, hey, we have some cool new toys out on the outside, and we're gonna just sling it to them, and they're gonna make it happen. And we realize that's you can't do that. Like, you got to run an actual offense. You got to go in there. You got to establish the run early. You're gonna have to design plays that are gonna get people open. You can't just throw it up, even though Cam Coleman is Superman. If they know it's going to him, like, it's just not going to work. So I think you go out there. I think whoever's at quarterback, you give them some easy throws early. Maybe you even take the RPO out of it in the beginning, and just say, hey, these are the design throws. I don't know, man. You got to do, because the RPO requires a lot of thinking, right? You got to do something, though, just to build confidence and momentum, because we never had it. I will say that we did have it on our first drive last week against Cal, but
literally first drive.
And then we lost it and we looked lost as an offense. So you got to do something to keep the momentum going, get the run game going. That's going to help a lot. I don't know. Outside of that, I'm not going to lie. I'm worried. This is at the end, but I'll go ahead and tell you, it's hard for me to pick us winning by more than 10 right now. That was a bad that was a bad performance last week.
Yeah, and the spread right now is 28 points, which I think is a little favorable. Especially since New Mexico has competed against a top 25 talent. And Auburn at this point is not a top 25 talent as much as I want us to be. We're just not there yet. So, I mean, I think for Auburn, we have to come out and we have to score. We have to consistently score. Have back-to-back drives where we score touchdowns. And our defense, I mean, we struggled, like last week against Cal, getting off the field. We had so many times where it was third down, and even third down and long, and Cal was able to convert. I mean, to me, that's a big point of emphasis in this game against New Mexico is get off the field defense. Like, finish, just tackle the dude, whatever you got to do. And to me, like, if you can do that against New Mexico State, or New Mexico, not Mexico State, you help your confidence level, peak up just a little bit. You're not going to get back up to right after we had a 70-point win against Alabama A&M, but you can build it up a little bit before we go to when we play Arkansas. So let's go to our players to watch. Let's start out with our offensive players on Auburn to watch. I'll go ahead and just say it. I mean, I think everybody is thinking it. Peyton Thorne, you have to be watching him. What's he going to do? Is he going to make the right decisions? And, I mean, secondarily, I think it's going to be just generally wide receivers because while they had some moments, I mean, I feel like the wide receivers are going to have to even have a bigger game. A really big game just to have a good win against New Mexico. So, Jared, who are you going to be watching for Auburn on offense?
I'm just going to be watching to see who comes out under center first. Is there? Do you think that there's a real possibility that Peyton Thorne does not start this game?
I think he starts. Now, if during this week of practice, Peyton is just mentally not there because of the trauma that he probably experienced on Saturday where the fans booed him off the field pretty much. If that's still lingering, I think you could go Hank. I mean, it's against a team where Hank could and should still get us a victory. But
what are the reasons you don't go Hank? Why do you not go Hank?
I really still love Peyton's legs, and if you can get Peyton legs, and that's a part of the game plan, have him run a little bit more. I don't know if Hank Brown has that ability. Now Hank Brown can pass the deep ball, but he also made an errant throw against Alabama A&M in his first game. So like I don't know, like that's the struggle going on. I see the upside of Hank, but I'm also like you have a guy like Peyton Thorne who has, should have a lot of experience and a lot of maturity in moments like this. I don't know. What's your thoughts on that?
I'm not saying Hank. I think we're in a bad spot, but I think what you get with Peyton Thorne. Like we have 15 games with him at Auburn.
Yep.
You know what you get. And to me, the reason you don't go with a young quarterback is taking care of the ball. Well, that Peyton's got against FBS opponents, he's got 15 touchdowns, 14 picks. So, like, to me, the main reason you don't give a young guy a chance is ball control or taking care of the ball.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's any better with Peyton. I know there's people out there that love the backup quarterback. I know nothing about Hank. I will tell you the only thing that is eyeball worthy. When Hank is in there, he doesn't look scared. Hank is in there, and it's like pressure collapsing. He slings that ball. Now, that may not be good. But but I feel like Thorne gets nervous around pressure. And I feel like Hank, in the very limited time we've seen him, is like, I don't care. I'm going to stand here tall, and I'm going to deliver the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And man, a large majority of what goes on as a quarterback is how you handle that pressure. You can be the best passer in the world, but you're going to get beat by somebody who's not as good of a passer, or doesn't know who will stand in there mentally and not be scared.
Yeah.
So, anyways, that's my true thought on it. I just don't know why you don't try it at this point.
Yeah.
I will agree with you on the legs.
Yeah, part of me is just thinking like it's New Mexico. If we're thinking about longevity of the season, I think Peyton's still your guy. Just like he's been your guy all off season. You know, Peyton may have just had a bad game. I mean, that I just lied. I mean, he did have a bad game, but it wasn't just that game. If we're honest with ourselves, it was other games too. But there is in the back of my mind always the thought like, hey, the coaches see something else in Peyton Thorne and why he's our quarterback. Why is that? I don't know what that is.
I was going to throw one more nugget out there in Hank's favor. And again, I don't really care. I want to win football games. I don't care if they put you out there at quarterback. But if you do go, like Thorne's done. Like he's a senior. I mean, he's out this year, right?
Right.
If you do go Hank and it does somehow work out, like you got your quarterback next year.
Yeah.
If you go Thorne and go 7-6, and you're like, well, we just wanted to make sure we go 7-6, so we kept Thorne in. You got to go find a quarterback next year. So
yeah,
I think at the bare minimum, find out what you have with Hank.
Yeah, well, it
is where I'm at now.
Like I'm thinking, even for this game that we're talking about, you play Peyton, build up his confidence as much as you can, because guess what? You're about to go and play Arkansas, and Arkansas is not going to be an easy pushover either. Even though their coach is on the hot seat, it doesn't matter. They're still going to be tough. You got to have a confident quarterback. And to me, like, you have to play Peyton at least somewhat. Now, I also see the benefit, put Hank out there and see what he can do against a lesser than opponent with New Mexico. And if it's truly clicking, then maybe, I mean, I don't want to go the 2 quarterback rotation route. That's just not a recipe for success. But if you have a good idea of who Hank Brown is, maybe that's your little secret sauce when we go and play, I don't know, Oklahoma or something. We switch it up and we have more plays for Hank Brown than we do for Peyton. I don't know. I'm just spitballing there. But I am on board a little bit more with Hank getting more touches than what he has. Because right now he hasn't gotten any except for the first game. So let's go to our players to watch on defense. I'll start. Keontae Scott's my main guy. With him transitioning to playing a wider cornerback position, he still had you could see some growing pains because he's, again, out on the island by himself a lot of times with the wide receiver. He definitely struggled some, but he also had at least one big hit from what I can remember, and he's coming off injury. Just a lot to watch with him. And I think this could be a good game for him to, again, kind of tune things up and get back out there. Jared, who are you going to be watching on defense?
I think I'm going to watch number 15. He had a great game against Cal. That's Keldrick Falk. He is probably our most talented player we got last year in the recruiting cycle. Won him over Florida State, and then coach said he's the hardest working kid on the defense.
You can see it.
And New Mexico has a mobile quarterback. So you have to rely heavily on the defensive line when that happens. You got a gap containment.
Well, like that's what happened with Cal. Like their quarterback was able to roll out. Falk is going to be a main guy. Keep that guy in the pocket, especially since New Mexico does have a mobile quarterback.
If we watch, the film after the New Mexico game and that quarterback did not have a great game, it's probably going to be a lot to do with Falk and the other guys on the line having, disciplined gap alignment and containment. And I'm not an X's and O's guy. I'm probably using the wrong words there. But at the end of the day, when the guy's mobile, it really, really revolves around how the D line handles their assignment. And I think he's becoming a leader out there, man. Asante is the leader, but I think Keldrick's right behind him. So, yeah, I'm going to keep an eye on him, see how he does.
Yeah, definitely. Special teams, the player to watch for me is really going to be Towns Magoo. I mean, I want him to kick a field goal, like a decently long, like 45, 50-yarder. If we have to do that, I want to see him kick it right through. I don't think he was like down about missing that 61-yarder last week, but you gotta get him back on the. He can make a field goal, and he's very capable. I mean, he did it all in high school too. So I'll be watching him, or maybe at this point, hopefully Alex McPherson at some point will make a comeback and is able to kick for us again. Jared, who are you gonna be watching on special teams?
I'm gonna go really just kick and punt return. Any of those guys making a play, because when you look at like I've watched Alabama and Georgia games over the years through their dominant runs, and they've had games like the Cal game, like they couldn't move the ball. But what they did was they had somebody make a play, and a lot of times it was special teams, and it was a great punt return for a touchdown or to put them, in red zone. We got to start. It's got to be a team effort, man. We got to start having not only just. I think you joked on the last podcast, and you're right. This is the Auburn mentality. Please just catch the punt. Please just catch the punt. Yeah. We got to get, and you're right. Like that's how we have memories of just catch the punt. That's all we want. We got to get to a point of no. This needs to be a weapon.
Yeah,
and we need to start seeing that. We have some talented guys. We got to start scoring in every facet, because while the offense is that is their job to score. We are a team, and if you can find other ways to score, you can win ball games, and you can win them ugly.
Mm-hmm.
And so I need to start seeing a little more out of the special. And to be fair, they did almost return one against Alabama A&M, but let's see it against bigger competition.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. All right, let's go to our score predictions, which we didn't revisit our score predictions from. So I guess we'll do that right now. Our update after the Cal game. Yeah, it's not looking pretty. But Jared, you have a 5-point lead over me in our score predictions, and you also correctly you predicted the top offensive threat. Which, reminder for that's another game that we're doing of who essentially scores the most touchdowns besides the quarterback. So typically a wide receiver, tight end, wing back, and you correctly got. KLS, Keandre Lambert-Smith. I had Malcolm Simmons, which he also had a few touches, but he didn't score a touchdown. And let's go to this week. How are we feeling? I think preseason you and I had us winning. I had us winning by 31 points. You had us winning by 30 points. The spread, 28 points. And it's actually gone down a half a point since I've seen it. So it may go down even further by the time you hear this. How are you feeling? What's your thought process on how this game might go?
Not good. I'm not gonna lie. I'm probably the max I can go is 13. Man, I just after watching that offense, I got to see more from that. I'm gonna say we win by 13, which will be very concerning. But I'm just trying to be realistic.
Yeah, the number in my head's right around there. I'm thinking like 17 points. I think we win by 17. It could be something not so great, like a 31 to what would that be, like 14 kind of score. I mean, if we do that and we get out of there and we build a little confidence, I'm good with it. But we got to have some semblance of a good offense going into SEC play, which will be the week after this game against New Mexico. And to me, that's going to be one of our next big tests is against Arkansas. Let's talk through our top offensive threats again. Who's going to essentially score the most touchdowns? Jared, I'll start with you. Who do you think that'll be for this game?
Outside of Peyton Thorne, that's the
yes.
Even though I said Hank may start. I'm gonna go Jarquez. I think we're gonna go run heavy.
Yeah, good call.
Yeah. I think it's gonna be Jarquez.
And I think Jarquez has earned just being on the team for this long. He deserves in these type of games to score. Like I'm hoping, if I'm being honest, like a couple touchdowns just from Jarquez itself. If we end up trying to test the passing game a little bit, which I think they will, it's just part of Hugh Freeze and who he is. I'm gonna go KLS. He just seems to be the solid guy that can get open, get touchdowns. So I'll go him. All right, so last segment of the day, wanted to talk through an Auburn fan perspective of the SEC. I did want to point out, and this is just kind of big picture SEC stuff. The AP poll just came out, and there are 6 teams from the SEC in the top 7 spots of the AP poll, which has never happened that a conference has 6 teams in the top 7 spots, which again just shows you how top heavy this SEC is this year. And obviously things are going to move and shake. This is only after week 2, but that just shows you there's a lot of talent in the SEC. And it just makes me laugh whenever other conferences say, oh, we can compete. And you're like, yeah, but like, how many teams do you have in the top 10? And Auburn, or the SEC almost inevitably has the most, just because we play the toughest opponents, and guess what? We have the best teams, we get the best recruits, all that. So let's talk just through a few things, and these are more perspectives from, again, putting on our orange and blue glasses. I don't know how much you got to watch, Jared, but we can talk through these. Arkansas, they fought a hard-fought battle against number 16 Oklahoma State. It literally went to 2 overtimes. Wild thing, in the first overtime, both teams missed their field goal, which, wild. That's just college football for you, and the inconsistency of kickers. But then in the second overtime, Oklahoma State got a touchdown, and that's all she wrote. And from an Auburn perspective, when you look at that game, you're thinking, wow, Arkansas, after probably should have fired Sam Pittman, their head coach, after last season. Sam Pittman somehow got his players up and ready to play at Oklahoma State, and took them to 2 overtimes. Like, that just shows me we cannot overlook Arkansas in a couple weeks. The next one that I was watching was the Texas versus Michigan, which again is still weird to me to talk about Texas and the SEC. It's going to take me probably half this season to figure that out and get used to it. But hey, Texas went to the big house in Michigan and won, dominated, might I say, 31 points to 12. That's incredible. And that broke a 23-game winning streak for Michigan at home. So maybe Texas truly is back. I mean, they keep saying it, but now that they're in the SEC, they're going to have to prove it week in and week out. I mean, this is just the second week of the season. But if you can consistently do that, Texas may be back. The other one, and you had mentioned this, Jared, the Bama game against University of South Florida. The score, 42-16, doesn't look close. But in reality, for most of the second half, it was 13-14. And Bama, my goodness, they struggled. They had fumbles. They just looked discombobulated in plenty of moments. And it really took until really towards the end of the fourth quarter for Alabama to pull away, and they scored like 3 or 4 touchdowns at the end of the game. But I think that just shows, hey, Bama's under a new head coach, not as invincible as under Saban. And you can sense that there's other teams that are just licking their chops and smelling a little blood in the water with Bama. Another couple ones. So South Carolina beat Kentucky. I was not expecting that. South Carolina, their very first week of the season, really struggled against a team that they should have absolutely dominated. But hey, second week of the season, they go to Kentucky in Lexington and shut out pretty much Kentucky, 31-6, and makes me, from Auburn perspective, a little less scared of when we play Kentucky. Like, does that, because we got to go to Kentucky. Like, how does that make you feel that we now have a good chance at that evening game in Lexington, Kentucky?
I can't be happy about any game on the roster yet. However, I get your point. I'll play along. Okay. If we become good, we don't have to become great to win at Kentucky, is what you're getting at. And yes, you're right. I thought we were going to have to be really good to win on the road there. If we can just figure out how to be good, we can now win at Kentucky, and you replace the Cal game. Oh, when I did my mentally, I don't know what I told you or the people here, but mentally I'm like, okay, Kentucky might be a loss, Missouri might be a loss. All the home games are wins. I even gave Oklahoma a win. So, as it stands right now, you replace Cal with Kentucky, right?
Yep.
If you can win at Kentucky, if you can figure things out offensively, you go win at Kentucky. Okay, well, you replace the Cal loss at home with the Kentucky road win. So, record-wise, you could still get to 8. I'm looking for the path to 8 here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't. Again, right now I wouldn't predict it because I wouldn't predict a win of many games right now. But yes, I do see what you're saying.
Yeah, and that's really what I was getting at. Is in like South Carolina, I still don't think super highly of them at this point.
No, I agree. I don't think they're that good. Yes, you were correct. And to win, and they won handed. I mean, what'd you say, 31-6?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, they have a freshman quarterback.
Yeah, exactly. That's the kind of thing that I'm like, I think Auburn could go in there if you have a solid offensive game plan. Whoever our quarterback is has is very decisive, knows what he's doing. All right, cool. We could go in there and do something similar. One more game, and there were plenty of others that happened, but another one that kind of stuck out to me was number 14, Tennessee absolutely dominating. Number 24, NC State, 51-10. And I'm selfishly, as an Auburn fan, just thankful we're not playing Tennessee right now because it looks like Tennessee and particularly their quarterback. My goodness, he's looking. Isn't he on the Heisman? I've seen him like on some Heisman watches. He's gonna
probably is at this point.
He's gonna be real good.
I'm okay. Like, I don't hate Tennessee. I got a couple of Tennessee buddies, and I'm perfectly fine if they are somehow becoming the new face of the SEC. It's still Georgia right now. I think Bama's. I think they're going to be good, but they're not going to be the face. So it's Georgia. But if Tennessee gets up there, I can handle Tennessee being the face of the SEC. So I'm pulling for them right now until we can get it turned around.
Yeah.
But they played very well yesterday.
Yeah, I thought so too. I mean, I think another kind of newer face that could really take over is if Texas keeps on this. And then really Ole Miss too, to some extent.
I think, you're right. I mean, Ole Miss is that team that they're going to blow out lesser talented teams. I'll be curious to see when they line up against, the bigger teams what they can do. But we'll see. They are very talented. You're right. Texas actually may become the face of the SEC, and I'm okay with that too. I don't hate Sarkisian or Texas. I have nothing against them. So anybody but Alabama or Georgia.
Yeah, man. I'm just looking at Ole Miss's schedule, and
it's pretty easy.
First game, Furman. Second game, MTSU. They're about to play Wake Forest, that'll probably be their first true test, but I don't think they'll have any issues with that. Next game, Georgia Southern. They're playing at home against Kentucky. Should dominate. They're playing South Carolina. Should dominate that one. Really, their first true test is like mid-October against LSU, and that is in Baton Rouge. And then they have some tough games towards the end of their season. So if they can figure things out early, which these next few games for Ole Miss, then man, they could be again like a top team. Because I think they have. I really like Lane Kiffin. I'm still a little sad that we didn't get him. I'm glad we got Hugh, but I think Lane Kiffin would have been a great offensive mind as well if we had somehow gotten him back a couple of years ago when we were looking for a new head coach. All right, Jared, any other thoughts before we get out of here?
No, sir. I think we covered them all, my friend.
Cool. Well, how can people stay in touch with you?
You can find me on Facebook under my name, Jared Davis.
And you can find me on Twitter at AJAY_. It's always great to be an Auburn Tiger. And War Eagle.
War Eagle.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode on the E2C Network. On your way out, I want to remind you to stop by e2cnetwork.com. It's your one-stop shop for all our content across our podcast, YouTube channel, and much more. To stay up to date with us, make sure you're following social media accounts such as Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. While our content here may always be Auburn sports heavy, if it's orange and blue, it's what we do. War Eagle.